So hello everyone from the Kingdom of Thailand, and speaking of kingdoms, we are once again talking about the British royal family. It's amazing to think that the day I actually travelled to Southeast Asia, our beloved monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, sadly passed away at the young age of 97. I was actually on the plane going to Qatar for my stopover before going to Hanoi in Vietnam. So I didn't even know she had died. And every time I think of her passing, I can't help but get a little sad. I'm definitely not pissing myself laughing, thinking about it, and thinking about how absolutely insane the UK went and how many people were grieving over an insanely wealthy old woman who enriched herself off both extracting wealth from our country, the UK, and also having loads of hereditary wealth that was built on colonialism and slavery, and how many terrible colonial episodes did the Queen oversee just in her own reign. But don't worry, these same unhinged royalists are actually crying themselves to sleep because Prince Harry has done the double whammy. He's released a Netflix documentary about a month ago, and now he has a book out about his life where he really doesn't hold anything back. And he probably should have held some things back because there are some personal details in this book which I don't think anyone really wants to know. Like, one of my favourite autobiographies is Oliver Stone's one that he released in 2020. Very, very personal, very intimate, and he admits a lot of things about himself and his life, which you probably wouldn't do if you were a younger person, but as an older person reflecting on his whole life, you can kind of understand it, but it still goes nowhere near the insanely embarrassing detail Prince Harry goes into in this book. Now, regardless of what you think of Prince Harry and Meghan, as someone who is really opposed to the monarchy, hates the royal family, I am actually loving this because he's just exposing what terrible people they all are, and more people need to understand this. I'm glad the Queen has died, that now we're having a conversation about actually getting rid of the monarchy, because it felt like it would never go away. So what I thought would be fun for this video itself is to go through my thoughts about Prince Harry and Meghan to start with, and maybe share some of the more embarrassing things I've been reading about his autobiography, and then we're just going to talk about the absolutely unhinged royalist reaction to his book. And it's especially funny when they bring in the Queen into this conversation. I just love people being really upset about the Queen's death still. It's absolutely amazing to me that people still are grieving about this horrible old woman who had an empire of wealth built on the worst kinds of atrocities the British Empire did. So all of that coming up for you today. Before we go any further, please like the video, and in the comments, what is the most unhinged reaction you've seen to Meghan and Harry? There is so much stuff to do with Meghan, which I'm going to talk about in a sec. But of course now Harry is in the crosshairs, so let me know down in the comments. Also follow me on social media at the Kavernacle on Twitter, but more importantly on Instagram, because it's where I'm posting all about my travels and what I get up to day to day. And that is all archived on my highlight reel, which is on my profile page. So if you care about any of that stuff, go check that out. And on that note as well, consider becoming a patron if you care about the traveling content. I now have 2 videos up about my travels, one about Hanoi, Vietnam, and one about Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Gonna film another one about Saigon later on. So if you care about that exclusive content, become a patron and also get access to the private patrons Discord server and get my Nintendo Switch friend code. Also, check out the subreddit and check out my second channel. All of that stuff down in the description. So just to start with, I thought I'd talk about my opinion of the whole Harry and Meghan drama. What I think this whole drama is good at exposing is the real face of British racism, because a lot of British people like to convince themselves that Britain isn't racist, or they aren't racist because we don't act like how, I don't know, over-the-top Americans act when they're racist, because a lot of the times the face of American racism is people screaming slurs or doing acts of violence, but most people will tell you in the UK, xenophobia and racism is much more passive, and it's often said in a way that people don't even think they're racist. And that is what you see a lot with the Meghan discourse. For example, a lot of the papers don't really say anything that is explicitly really, really racist, and even some of the comments which we all know are racist made to her by other members of the royal family, they don't think it's racist because they're not saying slurs. But of course the racism comes in that they really, really targeted Meghan because she was a black woman. And everyone knows Harry never received the the same treatment. She was always blamed for all the bad things basically both of them did. He was seen as like some victim of mind control by Meghan, and even when we did get reveals about people actually being racist to her within the royal family, people would then say she's trying to cause drama, she's trying to cause a fuss. So I think it's a good episode into showing people what British racism today really looks like. It's often like very passive and subtle, and it's not as explicit as like American racism, for example, but it is still deeply ingrained in the fabric of British society. But also on that note, I want to talk a bit more about like my opinion of Meghan and Harry. So I watched that Netflix documentary, and I guess what people have to remember, when you're watching a documentary, you might think you're getting all the facts and it's like unbiased and stuff like that. But documentaries are always constructed to make you think a certain way. They are using facts to tell a story, to frame their own argument, to make you feel more sympathetic towards them. And I think the documentary did a good job in that I felt the most sympathy for Meghan, who clearly seems like a very like smart and intelligent person and an empathetic person. Although I don't blame her for not anticipating the insane British press and how they would seek to like destroy her whole life, because who can really think that's going to happen to them? My main point is she seemed like someone who was fairly like woke. In the documentaries, talks about racism and slavery. They both do. But then the problem is you're marrying into a royal family that has enacted that slavery and colonialism around the world. And what are you trying to do by entering that family, right? Like make it like a more like modern liberal face or something, but you can't really get away from what the family represents. And even if they accepted you, what they still would have represented. So I just tweeted this after watching the documentary to sum up my points. Kind of like the cognitive dissonance that Meghan kind of has even when she's doing good things. And I'm going to praise her for some things that she did. So I wrote this. Watching the Meghan and Harry doc and her saying she was watching Grenfell Tower burning while sitting in Kensington Palace, and I just think that sums up my problems of her being in the royal family. Now, this was before her and Harry actually got married. So Meghan did a lot of work to help the survivors after the fire, which is obviously amazing and credit to her, but it rubs me the wrong way that she was involved in that community, but that wasn't a wake-up call to her to leave the royal family. Like, you're living in a palace while a poor migrant non-white community burned alive in a rundown flat made unsafe by austerity policies, a monument to Tory neoliberal Britain, every expense for the royals, none for the poor and marginalised. Meghan was clearly targeted by the royal family and the British press because of racism. I'm not downplaying that at all, but it's hard to have sympathy for two people who have had their lavish lifestyle funded by the taxpayer. The Netflix doc's attempt to make it seem like royalty and wokeness are compatible is pretty funny too. Meghan does seem like a good person, but her and Harry just come off as liberals. So some of you people watching this aren't from the UK, you might not know what Grenfell Tower was. Basically, Grenfell Tower was this fire that happened in 2017, really horrific. Most of the people living in there were like poor working class people, a lot of them like migrants and stuff, and it's basically found out that the Tory council basically cut costs on the building, which made it way more flammable, leading to these deaths. So everyone said this is a monument to austerity, this is a monument to Tory Britain. Now what I was saying in that tweet is that Meghan joined the royal family and she was about to marry into it at this time. And obviously, how much money do we pay as taxpayers to ensure the royal safety, and how much of Meghan's lifestyle when she was a royal was funded by the taxpayer? But she went and met with these survivors. She helped these survivors. And for me, that should have been a wake-up call that you can't like wokeify the royal family. This is Britain. You have a royal family where no expense is spared on anything they do, where you have people in Britain living in these flats which are insanely flammable and needlessly die in a fire, which represents how unequal our British society is. And as much as racism informs the royal family, the class element has informed its existence even longer than the racist element. So Meghan was willing to join that family. She didn't leave because of the insane class disparity in the UK or what the royal family represents in economic terms. And that's why Harry talking about unconscious bias, that's why the documentary talking about slavery and racism and stuff like that, it just rings a little hollow when the reason these people left the royal family isn't that they fundamentally disagree disagree with a hereditary monarchy, it's because of something that affected them personally more. So again, total sympathy with Meghan in this instance, and I feel bad for Harry to some degree. These are two people who clearly agree with the monarchy to some extent. Harry actually says as much, and Meghan was willing to actually marry into that family and join that family of her own free will. So that's just my opinion on these two, but I also do love how much they boil the piss of every racist royalist in this country. And on that note, I just want to share with you some of my favorite parts I've heard coming out of Harry's autobiography, either being really, really weird or just enlightening. So an article, 5 of the most shocking and controversial revelations Prince Harry made in his memoir. So this one, the relationship between Prince Harry and Prince William is an interesting one. A leaked excerpt from Spare that was published in The Guardian detailed an altercation that took place between the two brothers in 2019. Harry describing it as, he set down the water, called me another name and came at me. It all happened so fast. He grabbed me by the collar, ripping my necklace, and he knocked me to the floor. I landed on the dog's bowl, which cracked under my back, the pieces cutting into me. I lay there for a moment dazed, then got to my feet and told him to get out. Apparently on the way out, William asked Harry to stay mum about the fight, especially with Meghan. William had previously called Meghan difficult, rude, and abrasive. Why I like this story is because William has such a sanitized image in the UK. Purposefully, of course, just like the Queen had a sanitized image. It's very deliberate because William is going to become king one day. He can't be embroiled in scandal. How much scandal would he be in if this came out in 2019? He basically assaulted his brother and said rude things about Meghan Markle. So yeah, I like that because he's actually revealing that these people are both humans, brothers get into fights, but it also seems like William is pretty nasty as well, which goes directly against the image he has among just general British society. So I mentioned that Harry overshares too much, so he also shared about losing his virginity. And I actually love the way this whole book is written. Someone said it's actually ghost written, but if it isn't, it's just really funny how unself-aware he is of what this sounds like. So losing his virginity in a field, according to another excerpt, Prince Harry revealed he'd lost his virginity in a field in an inglorious episode with an older woman. So he writes, she liked horses quite a lot and treated me like a young stallion. Quick ride, after which she smacked my rump and sent me to grace. Among the many things about it that were wrong, it happened in the grassy field behind a busy pub. Again, I think he overshares a bit too much. I don't know about you. If I was writing my autobiography, even if I wanted to tell everyone about my life, I think I might leave that part out. Another time he talks about taking drugs. He writes, I'd been taking cocaine at the time at someone's house during a hunting weekend. I was offered a line, and since then I had consumed some more. It wasn't fun, and it didn't make me feel especially happy, as it seemed to happen to others, but it did make me feel different, and that was my main objective, to feel different. He also revealed he took magic mushrooms at a party at actress Courtney Cox's house, washing them down with tequila. So I might edit this in and play it for you. I also heard some recordings from the audiobook of Harry talking about putting lotion on his genitals and stuff, which was just very weird.
My penis was oscillating between extremely sensitive and borderline traumatized. The last place I wanted to be was Frostnipistan. I'd been trying some home remedies, including one recommended by a friend. She'd urged me to apply Elizabeth Arden cream. My mum used that on her lips. You want me to put that on my todger? It works, Harry, trust me. I found a tube, and the minute I opened it, the smell transported me through time. I felt as if my mother was right there in the room. Then I took a smidge and applied it down there.
Just in this book, a lot of the stuff he reveals and the way he writes it, or however it was ghostwritten, to me, just isn't making Harry look very good. It just makes him look kind of weird, and in my mind, just generally makes him look really out of touch, which of course everyone expects him to be. He grew up in this insane hereditary cult his whole life and only broke out thanks to the help of Meghan Markle, so he probably doesn't know how weird a lot of this actually sounds to your average person. But yeah, revealing the royal family to be bad people, nasty and stuff like that. I like Harry for doing that, and I just love all the drama this is causing, and I love people further turning against the royal family. But what you guys have to understand in Britain is that the entire establishment is very, very classist. They all go to Eton, they all go to Cambridge, they all go to Oxford. They all have like very, very wealthy families who have like hereditary wealth dating back like hundreds and hundreds of years. They all know each other and they all protect each other. The Tory party is in bed with so much of the press class, journalists, they're all mates, they're all related in some way or another. So of course the reaction to Harry's book was pretty unanimous from most of the British press because they're all elitist and they want to protect British institutions like the monarchy. But probably the most unhinged comparison I heard, and I'm going to share some of it for you today, is some journalist on the radio saying Harry's autobiography, Spare, was actually like Mein Kampf. So let's have a listen to this.
It's written by the ghosts, and the voice it's meant to be, namely Harry, is much cleverer than the real Harry. Of course, as you finish the story, you realize what it is. It's not Hamlet. It's Antony and Cleopatra. It's this man who was quite a good soldier. It's about a man who's so hopelessly in love or in thrall to his partner that he's lost all sense of proportion and reality. And this is Diana's revenge, because the villain of the book is the present queen, is Camilla. And he can't conceal his loathing of Camilla.
Do you feel like, is he likable?
No, that's the other fascinating thing about the book. He thinks it is, I'm not suggesting he's as bad as Hitler, but it is like reading Mein Kampf, in that Hitler thinks he's a great hero, and you put the book down with absolute disgust. And you do put this book down with total disgust at the self-pity, self-indulgence of this character, who doesn't seem to realize, although he says that he's a great great supporter of charity and sufferer with the world suffering, he doesn't seem to realize what incredible privilege he's been born into.
Obviously, absolutely insane comparison. I don't even know why that even sprang to his mind. Like, I don't know about you guys. I've read some of Mein Kampf, mainly to read about how much Hitler talked about Jewish people and communism. When I read that, and I read extracts from Harry's book, there's literally just nothing that links them together. Here is a book where Hitler is outlining stuff about his life, but also his very, very concrete worldview in a lot of detail, right? And that's why you're disgusted about it. I don't hear too many people reading Mein Kampf and talking about like how self-indulgent Hitler was, the criticism he's leveling at Harry. I'm like, what an absolutely unhinged guy who's clearly, outlining his fascist beliefs, which led to one of the worst conflicts in all of human history, right? So just even to compare Harry to that is just absolutely insane. But even you get the sense from what he's saying, he's just a royalist. He's offended by Harry, and he's offended at what Harry is saying because it challenges the institution of monarchy in that it's really ripping down the illusion that the Queen cultivated for so long, that they are above it all, that she is like a force for good in the world, a good head of state for the UK. That's what the monarchy serves as. But Harry's book kind of shows them to be petulant, be very childish, be very, very impulsive and nasty. And that's why people like this will try to say that Prince Harry's book is like Mein Kampf. Absolutely absurd. But don't worry, we're going to get into more royalist reaction. You guys know I do love people who simp for the Queen, revealing how like cucked they are by the British monarchy. But there's a subreddit called Saint Meghan Markle, and it's basically like for Facebook mums to talk about how much they hate Meghan and Harry and how much they love the royal family. So I just wanted to go through some of the most funny posts I saw on this. So posts like this you always see from Twitter, Spare being sold right where it belongs, next to some toilet paper. So here's one post: the whole book debacle is horrific. He is the bully. Nobody is spared. The King of England, Queen Consort, the Prince and Princess of Wales, even his beloved granny, Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, and many more. He knows full well they won't say anything. It is disgusting and unforgivable. A clear case of bullying. So it's bullying to write an autobiography where you criticize the royal family, like an extremely powerful institution of the UK, which has the backing of like the government and the press. That's what bullying is these days, because you say some bad things about your own family. So another post: is the Queen mentioned in this book, or did that chapter get cut since she passed? So here are some of the people in this subreddit to give you a good sense. So it's sad. I was never more than a close personal stranger to the Queen. I once saw her white glove wave as her car passed my school, but that's it. Somehow, that woman still provided me with comfort. She somehow remained an anchor I could be sure was always there. Stable, dutiful, reliable, doing the same thing month after month, year after year, and decade after decade. I could predict her actions given any situation. I saw her face every day, multiple times a day. I could recognize that lady without my contact lenses, half pissed in the dark. I knew that voice better than I remember my mother's. I miss the Queen. Did you ever see her laugh? That lady had the most girlish giggle I've ever seen. The whole concept of monarchy is ludicrous, which is amazing, but still, I miss that lady and I miss that twinkle in her eyes. Like, how absolutely unhinged is this poster? But I also think that's a good indicator of the people who hate Harry and the people who support the British royal family. The Queen purposefully sanitized her image so you could project things like this on the Queen. Like this guy saying he misses the Queen, doesn't know anything about the Queen, but he just projected his own whatever. Maybe he needed a mother figure in his life and he chose the Queen. He even says at the end, the concept of monarchy is ludicrous, but I love the Queen. This is what a lot of people in the UK are like. They say, I'm no monarchist, I don't agree with the monarchy, but the Queen, oh, I love the Queen so much. What a great representative of the UK. My favourite part about the Queen, I think, she was such a family person that she even paid her son's really, really high legal fees. What a lovely woman. So you get other posts like, I miss her, I'm relieved she passed before she could see all this. So another post, reconciling Her Majesty the Queen and Spare. In today's latest windfall of dirty laundry, I just can't stop thinking about Her Majesty, with each leak, many of which are more tawdry than a Kitty Kelly unauthorised biography. I keep thinking of what the Queen would have felt reading this. As far as Harry knew, she was going to be. The Queen, reading as her grandson disclosed getting his arse smacked while losing his virginity. The Queen reading as her grandson disclosed the specific details about his time in Afghanistan. The Queen reading as her grandson says that what she gifted him wasn't good enough. The Queen reading as her grandson makes fun of the personal quirks of her family members, which all of us have, but that most of us wouldn't even disclose at dinner party, much less to the world. And for what? Cheap entertainment for public consumption. They can say they respect her all they want. It's her country, her family, her child, her values, her traditions, her gifts, her life's work, her day in and day out for 70 years that H&M's vitriol is hurled towards. This is way more than complaining and explaining. It's irreversible damage done to his grandmother's legacy and a perpetual insult to the core of who she was and what she stood for. He may as well set a lawn chair down at the doorway of St. George's Chapel and spit at the tombstones inside every day for the rest of his life, which is far less degrading or lasting than the ugliness he released into the world with his memoir. The woman in that photo is 2 days from death. She was magnificent, and she deserves so much better. You know, like secondhand embarrassment? I don't necessarily get secondhand embarrassment from reading that. More thinking about the person behind this post and their worldview. Isn't that absolutely amazing? Harry talking about losing his virginity is somehow an affront to the Queen herself. But this is how brainwashed monarchists are. They're not just your average person who might be sick of hearing about the royals, sick of Prince Harry and sick of the family drama. They're literally personally offended he would dare say a bad word about his family. And I always love it so much because, like I said, the Queen was this sanitized, saint-like figure. No one really knew her apart from her own family. So if one of her own family writes a book about what that family is actually like, I tend to probably believe that more than I believe someone like this who's acting like everything Harry said and did was personally attacking the Queen and her amazing legacy of sitting in a golden chair with jewels that were taken from other countries through colonialism while using her massive personal fortune to defend her favourite son from being prosecuted for being a nonce. Here's another one. This photo of the late Queen always makes me get teary. She was determined to do her duty right to the end, and with a smile on her face, so brave. Her grandson wrote his steaming pile of book, thinking she would read it and didn't care. He has no comprehension of duty or honour or any of the good emotions. He's so self-absorbed that he thinks his right to speak out is more important than everyone else's feelings and doesn't care who he hurts. Thankfully, he and his wife are idiots and this book just confirms it. So again, you can see the brainwashing here and the conditioning. The Queen has really never done anything for the UK. If I say to someone right now, put 5 things in the comments that the Queen did for the UK, I bet you can't even come up with 2. The Queen just had absolute absolutely amazing PR paid for by the taxpayer so she could justify her insane wealth. Like, what I like about the newest season of The Crown is that like subplot with the royal yacht, and you just see how insane it is. Like, she goes begging the prime minister for more money to modernize the royal yacht. Like, that is what people pay for. And obviously, you know, back then we had massive problems of recession, and now it's gotten even worse. And this is the state of Britain, where more people will care about Harry criticizing his own family than they will care about the royal family even existing, or the insane inequality in this country, or what the Tory government are doing to this country, because the Tories support the monarchy. So to a lot of these old biddies in this subreddit, like, I didn't even know older people even use Reddit. It seems like a lot of these people must be older. That's all they care about. The Queen and her amazing legacy, which was... someone tell me? And then you see posts like this which make me laugh. I hate my family because they don't like Meghan. That is the reason for his book and what it should have been called. I mean, like, fair enough. Like, if your family reject the woman you love and the mother of your children, then are you not allowed to break ties with them? Are you not allowed to criticize them or like hate them? They're literally not accepting you and your family. Like, are these people really saying that if they married someone and their entire family rejected them and actually helped the British press vilify them, that you also wouldn't criticize them and you wouldn't break ties? It's just like that subtle racism where, because it's like Meghan and Harry, they're completely outraged. But if that was just like your average person, most people would agree they're doing the right thing. I could have made this video far longer because obviously whenever the royal family comes up, it seems like half of Britain loses its mind. And I can totally understand, like, if you are sick of hearing about the royal family, if you are sick of hearing about Meghan Markle, and if you are sick about hearing about Harry. But what I genuinely do believe, despite people's problems of both these people, is that you can totally see how the British press will ruin your life if they see you as a piece of meat they can exploit. Like, how much stuff the Daily Mail has written about Meghan, like, throughout her being in the public eye in Britain, and how much stuff they've written recently and stuff is just absolutely unhinged. And all the hatred these people whip up against Meghan, no wonder she has to spend so much money on security. Like, I genuinely think that her life is actually in danger. Like, I know it seems really silly maybe to Americans, although loads of American conservatives also back up the British royal family and hate Meghan Markle too. And although, like I've been saying, and like we see, although a lot of it isn't explicitly racist, the targeting of her is racist, because you can see how disproportionately she is vilified, and every little part of her life is dissected by the right-wing press. And you compare that to like anyone else in the royal family orbit. Like, Kate Middleton and William have been treated with kid gloves by the royal press, probably because they give them access and stuff like that, and probably because they have good PR that cultivates this image that as the next king, isn't he such a wonderful, nice guy, where Harry has always been the bad boy. Harry has always had this bad reputation, although I will say the public generally have liked Harry because he seemed like a more normal person, actually served in the armed forces and stuff like that, so he has that respect there. But as you've seen and as they've outlined, the royal family itself actually helped the press with these stories against Meghan Markle. So yeah, final thoughts, and overall, I feel bad for Meghan. I feel less bad for Harry, but I don't blame him at all for writing this book and calling out all the members of his horrible family. I hope this leads to more people hating the royal family, and like I said, I hope all this Meghan drama helps younger people realise how racist the British press are, but also how racist the royal family are fundamentally. But let's please stop with the narratives that Harry and Meghan wanted to get rid of the monarchy, or they're fundamentally opposed to the monarchy, because even if they went in, and even in like a fantasy world, if Harry became the king and Meghan became the queen, they're not going to deconstruct the royal family, they're not going to get rid of the royal family, because they're fundamentally not opposed to it. Because like most liberal people, they believe they can reform fundamentally racist and classist institutions by just changing them and making them a bit nicer, or making them more woke on the face of it, rather than left-wing people who believe you have to actually completely overthrow and destroy that system because it's representative of so many more of our wider problems in society. I hope this video showed some of you guys in America that people in this country are just absolutely insane about the monarchy. Even today, I would still say probably more people like the monarchy than hate the monarchy, which says so much about us. And it's no wonder Britain is an absolute mess at the moment, and how we're having our country run by like hedge fund managers, and they're completely destroying our country. Like, there is nothing redeeming about Britain at the moment. And the fact that British people allow themselves to be manipulated so much, where they're turning against striking workers and playing into this right-wing framing, shows how subservient we are, shows how much we don't have fight in us to actually overthrow the systems that oppress us, because we've been conditioned since, like, I don't know, 1100 to accept like the right of kings, hereditary monarchy, and that people who go to Eton and talk with posh accents are actually better than the rest of us. Anyway, that is it for the video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and if you made it this far, thank you for watching.